Remember, on the PTs, what's the champion of such a PT?
I didn't want to start before you were ready. Well, thank you all for coming. It is so wonderful to see so many familiar faces I know from Facebook, Instagram, who are all in our family, and those who I know really well. Thank you. It is an honor for us to be in the presence of Lyrically Leona. You know, so many of us grew up on watching you on VHS. In the 1980s, exactly. The infamous Kashad video, of course. Oh my God. But no, it is just an honor for us, so for you, infrequently when you get the generations together, and I think that I want to thank Milik for bringing us all together for the concert. Yes, masterclass. And Milik knows many of us so well because he is always there at our performances. Comes backstage, he texts me, make sure that he knows that that we know that he's there. Oftentimes I know exactly where Milik is, and a couple of the front row, at a performance. So it's just wonderful to us all. Yeah, Milik is I'm just very grateful for our friendship. And on and off the stage, So, but anyway, it's just such a pleasure and an honor, like I was saying, so infrequently do we have the generations together. And I want you to talk about how you came to be in this industry, because careers are very different now.
Yes.
Right?
That's the art to even start, and everybody's unique.
Absolutely. So please share with us.
Wow. I was just telling her, I don't know what the young people are doing now, but when it was my day, if they couldn't get work here in the U.S., they would go to Europe and try to get in a house there, or, it got very difficult to get a job here. But my situation was very different. I don't know. God did something. I don't know. He did something because I had just graduated university and been in maybe the Maryland program, and I'd won maybe 35 contests. I was all over the place doing these contests, national contests, and I would win them. And so I went to San Francisco and I won that. And that was my key to getting into the industry because Kurt Adler there helped me, kind of watched over me as I was 23 and 4. I'll tell you a quick story. I was the youngest one that was auditioning then and for the contest, and the other ones were about 27, 8, 9. They called that old. They were old at 27, 8, 9. I was 22. So they kept saying who was going to win the contest, and they just kept dismissing. And you're too young. You're not going to win it. And I said, okay, well, what did I know? As I had never been there. So, but I won that San Francisco competition, and that helped me, as I say, endure me to Kurt Adler. And he then invited me back to the spring program for young people, and I did my first Michaela there or something like that, and things like that. So, and then I did the roots that you guys do. I did Santa Fe Opera Apprentice Program and those kind of things, choirs and being in a choir, but maybe 1 year. But as I came to New York to audition for Kurt Adler and Juilliard and things like that, trying to get myself going, it's just things started snowballing for me. I was supposed to originally do what was it? Porgy and Bess, but I was to be Clara. And it was supposed to have been Martina Arroyo. They were going to mix it up with a white baritone. They were going to have something unique. Anyway, that plan fell through, and then so they said, well, can you do this? What? Okay. So then London Records asked me, and that's what I got a Grammy for, and that Bess.
Yes.
So that was happening at the same time that Soprano canceled at the Met, and it just so happened that one of the producers at the Met had known me from San Francisco. And here he's going, well, I know we could do that Michaela. Out of all the Michaelas in the world, he said, Leona Mitchell. Leona Mitchell, who's that, right? And so in 24, they invited me. And I started with Placido Domingo. He was my tenor. I was at the top. And Reggie Crespal was the mezzo. And all these seasoned people. And I had never been anywhere near the Met. I had never even seen anything at the Met. I just, just agreed. And they rehearsed me in a room I didn't get to rehearse at the orchestra. I didn't get to see Placido till that night.
But
No, I didn't even know where I was going on the stage, and I'm peering out of there. Oh, by the way, at my university at OCU, I had done maybe 4 operas, and it was great because usually you had to go and to get your master's to do operas. But I was in my first opera that I heard. I was, Mozart's La Nozze di Figaro.
So that's what's that?
Yeah. So, but I had gotten some experience at college, doing roles and being on stage, so I was kind of comfortable. And so they put me in opera, and I had no idea that, I told Milik that they could possibly say, well, you're never coming back here again. It's funny how it went, but thank God it went well, with those seasoned people, and I had never seen that stage or the orchestra. And I got out there and did that. I remember Placido said to me, aren't you afraid that? And I said, no, I'm not. I can get on the stage. I don't have time to be afraid. But listen, as I moved along, I started being afraid. Oh, God, it started being afraid. I went, oh my God, there's money behind this. This is a business. It's serious. And I saw people, wonderful artists asked, when they didn't like something, and I went, oh my God, this is treacherous. But that was about 10 years later. I figured it out. No, this is serious, very serious. But that's how I kind of got started.
Yeah. Can you talk about what I loved is that you asked each singer to sing lyrical.
Yes.
Nowadays, we're all asked to put so much sound out, right? Because the idea around teaching with resonance and breath and all the things, everybody teaches different. Some people don't get that at all. And so when you get into these very large spaces, the voices often don't entirely the right harmony. And so everyone wants you to put the pressure on the chorus, right? Not everybody, but I'm just saying that. So I want you to speak about how you progress from role to role, how you go from Michaela to tours, right? Which is what you do.
Yeah. But I always said I grew up in the public space because I was so young, starting, so I was doing all these lyric roles.
How long?
Probably about 6 or 7 years. Because I knew I had a team working for me. You have to have somebody that you could trust in that, because we can't really hear our voices. So somebody that understands and knows your voice and sees how it projects and all of that. So I had a team. I had a coach that I learned all of my repertory with. I was so lucky. He had been taught by the old Italians and Germans and French. And so I was lucky to have him because we would go through the repertory and he'd listen. And when I first said I wanted to do Butterfly, that was my first thing from doing Michaela's and things. And he said, well, I don't know about that. And so he had me sing it at the studio. And he went, okay, you can do this. So I was maybe about 26 or 7 doing Butterfly. Wow. Which is it's a big role. Yeah. It's a big role. But he said that my voice was like the scuba was like a timbale. She had a lot of sound. So I had that naturally, like a lot of these that sang in that. So I had that, but he said I could be lyric, and then all of a sudden I go boom. Yeah, and so he said, okay, so then you could do this. And so we took each role, and I would say, okay, well, I knew that I couldn't do Verdi at first. I knew that I was staying away from it until about 30. So I stayed away from it, because when I went on my European tour in my 20s, they kept asking me to do Aidas because they could hear it. I don't know, sometimes the black sound, we have that extra sound. I don't know if it's from the church or what. But we have different strengths. And so they heard that strength and they were offering me the Aidas at 24, and I kept saying, no, I'm not going to do that. And I could hear sounds that I wanted to make that I wasn't making then.
Yeah.
So I just waited and just kind of just strengthened myself. And then I worked myself into it.
Did you teach yourself how to hear, what was it inside of you that knew?
Well, I think I just couldn't make those sounds. I was like, okay, well, something, I can't really matriculate that. That's moving, too fast for me, or I can't move that coloratura like I need to. It's not doing it right. And, the dramatic color. Yes, right. And so I could tell that I couldn't do it. And I also had, like in those days, we had tape recorders. So I'd tape every lesson, everything. And I would say, well, that's not quite right. And so, but my voice absolutely, it was there. I think it was supposed to be there eventually.
And when did you move it to the bed?
It was in my 30s.
In your 30s. So for your 30s and your 40s, you always...
Oh, yeah.
Sang.
That's what I did. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you majored in you in 75.
Right.
So, I grew up, my first exposure to opera was Denise Green's on Between the Lines, PBS.
Oh,
I remember I thought she was the only black singer. So
right.
in my research, and then when I discovered you and when you made your debut, I discovered that at one point in time, I was from like the 60s to early 90s, black women were sort of kind of keeping the Met open. It was you, Miss Prince, Norman, Isola Jones, Red. What was it like, being amongst all those women of color?
I had a special association with Grace Bumbry because she was at the end of her career, but I was at the beginning. And so we did a lot of Aidas and we were all over Europe doing it in Germany and France. And her favorite name for me was Tweety Bird. And let me just tell you, all these are peaches and honey. Because Grace was a firecracker. I heard, I didn't know, I saw, but I looked back on Grace and she was riding motorcycles and stuff. I don't know, that Grace was something. But can you imagine from the 50s or 60s when you weren't really a human being in the United States and you got to go over there and be treated like such a grand dame, and she was just insane. So she was riding a motorcycle. I don't know what Grace but anyway, and then she, as being some of the first black women that were like superstars over there. And then she, I guess we women, we have to be in an industry where we have to lead and be the boss and so especially Latin men aren't accustomed to us being so forceful and things like that. So Grace would run into troubles from So let me just tell you, I'm going to just go past all of that. But I got in trouble as we were doing the Massenet's Arudia. And I learned that piece. It's really difficult. I was playing Delilah, but Delilah was the soprano, and Grace was my mom. So it was really, really amazing, that piece, because a lot of high C's just everywhere. And so I was singing that and doing well, but it already started off wrong because the tenor, Jose got sick, Jose Carreras. And so then they were auditioning tenors. Nobody knew that darn word. It was, nobody did the rodeo. And so they kept auditioning these people and running them through. And I would graciously go out there and sing the parts. And I remember this one tenor came from France and he had these little glasses on. And he had this score and I went, he's not gonna make it. Yes. He was with these little glasses. He was walking around with that scar. I said, that was. It's not to say funny, but anyway, I was being gracious and using my voice and rehearsal with these people. And finally, they found one that knew it. And but I had been. Grace was there. She didn't sing one note until the performance. She was marking. And I was singing out loud, just full voice all the time. So this conductor, he got so used to me, and it's a lot of choral work, and you're singing those high C's all over there. So it came to almost time for to open. And so I wanted to rest because I've been singing and singing and singing and singing. And so he got upset because he couldn't hear my voice over the choir. And he said, but I want her to sing. And I'm like, hey, wait, nobody else is singing. None of the principals but me. And I said, I'm not going to sing. And so the intendant marches up to the top. If you don't sing, you will be fired. And I went, okay, well, I'll just be fired. And I said, you're not going to talk that way to me. And so the choir and everybody was stunned. I had a baritone from America and a based from London, and they got so upset about it too. When I walked out, they walked off, the choir walked off, everything. Well, they didn't like them treating me like this. And so, it was a mess. And so, and that was the day before sales and thing. And so I was like on this beach in the Marseille, in France. And so I was like, oh God, how do I get my manager at New York and tell them I've been fired? I've never been fired in my life. Oh, it was a mess. And so anyway, finally, they had to ask me back. For some reason, I didn't do it, but the set burned down. So they had to come back. They got it. They couldn't find any soprano that sing that role. And so, and then, but with the crowning point was the Herodiade Massenet, the granddaughter, came back she was crying because of me bringing her grandfather's work to life. And I had such a success with that piece. And so, one of the baritones said to me, you talking about return of it? you returned Victoria. So, but oh my God, that was a test. Oh, and I'll bet to tell you about Grace, because she was sitting there. And Grace was tough as nail. She started crying because it was just shambles. Everybody's walking the table. Oh, and my husband at the time, who was my manager on the road, and he's been with me 40 years. He came out of the bathroom, and everybody's sleeping. He goes, "What's going on?" What happened? And he said, every time I go to the bathroom, something's happening. I mean, we said, oh my God. But anyway, we rectified it, and they had to hire me, and it was a great success. But Grace was crying, and she goes, oh, Tweety Bird, you didn't have to do that. And she said, I've had a lot of experience with this, but you just ignore them. You just have to ignore them. And so then I had to learn. But that was really... You still want to ask something else? Sorry.
There's a good story I'll bring up.
You think about it.
Well, I had a wonderful... I was sort of their, like, little sister, like Luciano's and Placido and those. They were like 10 and 12 years older than me. So I had a rich experience being around these people. I was in Australia. I used to learn my roles in Australia. I went there 25 years in a row. And I learned my Toscas, my butterflies, my everything there. Yeah, forzas and everything. And they had a wonderful Italian conductor who used to do calls and stuff. So I got to be under his tutelage, and they were very professional there. And I always did at least 10 performances of a performance. So I had a great time in Australia. And Joan Sutherland came back and did a lot of operas and got to be good friends with all these people. She knitted my son when I was pregnant with my son, a little thing that I kept for years, a little jacket for him. Joan used to knit when she'd get bored. Bored. I shouldn't say that. I mean, when you're downtown, you're down the time. So she used to knit. And anyway, but I had such wonderful relationships with these people. Luciano and I did I call it a cult film.
It's still a film.
And but he was trying to do Hollywood, but his accent was so heavy, he didn't make it. And I played myself in it. I was Leon the Fisherman. And so I was in a movie with him, and I got to know him really well because I said, oh my God, I want to go back to opera. Because with the little scene was, maybe 10 minutes, but Jesus, I had to spend 3 weeks here in New York and 3 weeks in LA just filming that scene with him. And I went, oh, this is really boring. I don't like movies. But anyway, that was quite an experience. And I just had I was privileged to be with these people. I remember Mozart, when she was doing her first Turandot, I did it with her in Paris. And then she came to America to do her first Turandot. And it was Luciano's first Karloff. And so they did it in San Francisco. And the director, Ponell was the director. He was a famous director. And he wanted Liu, instead of them taking Liu off as she dies, he wanted them to just be on this thing, like just laid up while they did that whole third act. And but the sounds that White did over my ears between Carnegie and him was just a joy. And I went, oh my God, this orchestra and all of their sounds, what a wonderful job I had. I was dead, That was so strange. That's the way he wanted it, but it made me happen to just listen to their gorgeous sounds every, performance. So that was really wonderful.
Absolutely. Oh my God, I have like a billion questions that I want people to ask. I'll go pressure the audience. But there's two things that I want to ask you. What was it like? Okay, because so many of us only know the voices from
Recorded isn't
right. Can you talk about singer sounds? Like, because I think it's important for us to know.
It's so different. Young singers, they have no idea what the sound is. It's very different than recordings. The recordings just capture some of the sound. And it's, golly. Yeah, because I've come back and heard some things and I'm going, wait a minute. And it's not getting out there where it's supposed to get. It's not going past the footlights or something, but these sounds that were back there, that Madam Grace, she loved to just woo, woo, woo. I mean, she's huge. You just, waked her way back. And, I was at the tail end of hearing some of the great tenors, those Italian tenors. I didn't get to do Corelli because that sound, you could tell on that on tapes, his sound is just something outrageous. But yeah, the sound is huge, and it feels the man. It feels, And I was, I was told, like, Joan hated the opera company in Sydney because it really wasn't made for the opera. Yeah, it was made for orchestra, but she hated it. But I loved it. My voice, it could go way back everywhere, and it didn't matter what house I was in. So I just liked, whatever house I was in.
I love that.
I didn't quibble about, well, can you hear me or this or that? Because I was told that they could definitely hear.
Right. Do you think that was from the way you trained?
I think that was God-given.
Okay.
And I think the way I trained it get in a way of it.
Yes.
See, because you can get bad training. There's the thing about, I was, after I made my debut, I was told to maybe go coach with this teacher in Los Angeles. And I went with her, and then all of a sudden, I couldn't sing any high C's. She had me so tied up and so into this technique, that I'm like moving through the straw. Okay, I didn't get it, And actually, a lot of her students were bound like that. And she had one great student, I'm not going to say her name, but I think she did it in spite of the lady, because it was the most horrible thing, because teachers are your mothers and fathers, and it was hard to get myself away from her. I didn't want to hurt her feelings. But my manager in New York said, if you don't get away from her, you are not going to continue having a career. Because when I hired you, you had ICs. Now you don't have them. Oh, it was horrible. And I heard George Shirley had a story like that, where he sued the people. His voice went, yeah. But I didn't stay long enough to do that. I got sued. It was one, Mary Costa, who did the Disney Fest stuff. She used to study with my coach, too. And so they were having these powwows. How do we tell her to get away from that lady? It's so Mary, she was private, but she said, Leona, with her little southern accent. You have to leave her. You just had to. And so I got up enough nerve. I actually just didn't call her or tell her. I just wasn't around to be. Oh, scary cat. I couldn't even try to help this to her. Hey. But I had to get away from that one. Yeah, his name was Jack Metz, or they say John Metz. He was the only kind of classical coach in California, really, basically, other than the ones at the San Francisco Opera. But he was the main private coach in California. Amazing.
So I would say, as you sit here and think and reflect, you had a sold-out show a couple of days ago.
Yeah. For coming. Yeah, thank you so much for coming to the show. I'm so appreciative, and I'm so appreciative of Milik. I can't believe I was just singing to him. Oh, when October goes, and he said, "Oh, okay." He said, that's what you, and he said, what do you want to do? And I said, well, that's cool. I want to see how I can do with that because I'm 75, folks. I said, I'm just supposed to have fun, let me just try that. And so thank you, Lee, for, bringing me here. Thank you.
I know y'all have questions. I know.
Yes. Well, wait, Betty. I want to say to Miss Winchell that this is something that I think when I called to find out something about, I don't know, I know because some of the people who were managed to tell me, being an artist, when you call like your management and ask, could you tell me where the next place where this person or that person is singing? And I called to Columbia Artist and I asked about you. And the lady said, well, she's no longer with us any longer. Her husband is managing her career. So with that transition, when you left and you were under, your husband was managing career, how was that leaving Columbia Artists and him working with you?
Oh, gosh. It's such a horrible story. I didn't leave them. They left me. Yeah, that's the story they've been told. But it was horrifying to me because I had spent 18 seasons at the Met. So I'm looking forward to my 25th, like the big guys did, Luciano and Russell. And they cut me off. And they wouldn't give me any reason other than we don't agree with you musically. They didn't say I couldn't sing. They didn't say any of that. And I was just dumbfounded because it just came out of nowhere. And even though I was 43, I sang for 20 more years, just really sang. And so I was just appalled. I didn't know. And then I heard I was still doing things over in Europe and all, like Rio de Janeiro and Chile and all of these places. And so I was in Sydney where I was doing my first tour dance because I was stretching myself. And I did a first Ariadne. I never did it anywhere else. Yeah, but I was going to go into Strauss or whatever. But anyway, a lady came up to me from America. She said, oh, I was so thrilled that you're here and you're singing. She said, because I was told that you had retired. And I said, what? I'm not retired. And then I'll tell you another story. As all this was happening, just around that time, some lady called me, and I told it on a show, and she said, well, can you do a recital? And in my real days, I was too busy to do these things like for Nats or something, whatever. So I said, okay, because the other thing was just cut off for me. And I said, okay, I'll do that. And so I was busy running around trying to get my repertoire together, and she calls me, and she's back, and she says, she was him-hawing, and she said, well, they told me that you really are not singing anymore. You can't sing anymore. And so should we just, destroy the contract? And I said, excuse me? And it was just before the internet came out and all these videos came out of me. I had nothing to show. No, because the record industry was not putting any records out. It was I don't know, they got angry about me saying I wanted black men to sing in opera. And so they kind of had that, held it against me, that I was too political. General. And just get rid of her. And so anyway, I didn't do the records. And so I had nothing to show this lady, other than my little tape recorded performances I was scrambling around. But I told her, absolutely not. I'm going to sue her because we have signed the contract and I will be there to sing. And so anyway, she had some little piece she wanted me to learn. Somebody wrote. I learned that. And as I sang that concert, full blown, I may have been about 48 or 9. And oh my God, the whole audience came to my feet when it was over. And she didn't know what to say. But she was being misled. And it was really, I'm not going to say who it was, but it was really an official organization that was putting this out that I couldn't sing. And it was really painful. It's really, really painful. And really, it Kathy may not talk about it or whatever when they let her go. But it chops off your money, everything goes. It's horrible. It puts you in a horrible place. Horrible, horrible, horrible. And because all the other companies say, well, the Met said that she's not singing it anymore, so we're not going to invest in. So it was a really terrible situation for me for a while.
How'd you become a fan?
I just had to live through it. I had to live through it, but it was very painful. Very, very painful.
That's an interesting question because you lived in 93, your spouse leaves in 94, Zola leaves in 93. I noticed when you look at the Met archives, this is a big one. A lot of the Black women left like at a very specific time, or it's not all connect.
Yeah, I was explaining to my husband at the time. We were looking at the brochure, and we went, "Oh my God, it's about quarter blacks here." It just was wonderful to me. It was blacks everywhere. And then I guess they got the memo too. They went, okay.
So we're going to be ready. I'll be ready.
Not that you're ready.
No.
Yes. So we noticed that just stuff that had, not me, even the parts that were doing come from Mario's and everything, they were starting to cut a lot of them out. But it seems wonderful now. I'm so proud now that the men are singing. It just makes my day. Because Simon Estes, he was not, he came in and finally did Porgy and Bess, but he was Mr. Botan of Europe, right? And so he wasn't being asked there. And Vincent Cole finally made his debut, But it took a long time. Yeah.
Anybody else?
I have a personal question. Like, I look at the old videos of, you call them by first name basis, but I don't know Pavarotti.
She's funny.
She calls him Luciano.
Right.
But I was like, she meant Pavarotti. Looking at some of his older videos, even with the poor quality, some of them are in the mid to late 70s. Pavarotti is loud.
Oh, yeah.
You know it's not a real high quality to the equipment from that era. So I'm wondering, I looked at some of the setup, I'm looking at the videos. Some of them just had the mics at the very end of the stage, kind of at the ledge.
Right.
And then we've transferred over to now people are doing opera with mics on. Has that taken away from how...
Well, of course, because mics tend to make the voice harsher. You have to, especially the higher up it goes, you have to really... I remember I used to do big stadiums like Turandot and stuff, and it was always a problem with me and those mics, because they would turn me down, because it would be so strong. Yeah, and so I'm shocked that they're doing something like it. We didn't do that. They only mic'd down on the stage for a radio broadcast. We did not say what mics. Oh my God.
So because that was a recorded one with Pavarotti, that's why they were the mics at the edge.
Yeah, and the edge. But
I don't feel like the mics were adding to his sound though, because
no, they didn't. They had a way of doing this at the Met. It was really wonderful. We didn't have mics on us. It was just for the orchestra and balance.
Just deep voices.
Yeah. So we just sang like we normally did. Nobody anywhere, that would be an outrage in our day. If you had a microphone. It's like me doing my jazz thing the other night. I need, with the mic, I need you to do that with that. But that would have been an outrage to do opera that way. Absolutely.
Yes, I just have a question as far as your family and traveling as you did begin to have children. What was it like?
Oh my God.
During that process?
Oh my God. They did an article on some sopranos with children, and because this was unusual, because the Ballion, all those didn't have children. Caballé did, but she stayed a lot in Europe when she had her kids early. But they did an article on it because it was so shocking to the people that sopranos and people had these babies. And Paul, what are you doing with these babies? Hey, listen. When I was getting ready to do that album that I did, I had my son. And I was supposed to go back 6 weeks later. I didn't know. I never had a child. I didn't know how weak my tummy was going to be. And so I had to cancel. because I said, I can't even get my sound right now. And, oh, wait, one of the sopranos, clicker for a starter. She said, because she adopted her children, she said, why are you having children? Just adopt them. But anyway, Flicker and Lee, and I forget who else it was. They did their article on this, and they said, opera divas in their baby cars, in their baby bottles. You know, it was tricky. This child was 6 weeks old when I went to Berlin to do my first Aida there. And this tiny little thing was taking a passport picture, and she just traveled nonstop until he was like 13. Just crisscrossing. I did like 300 performances a year. That's what I did for 30-some years. And I had to work hard, I told Milik, because I didn't have a discography. So it was like I was always introducing myself again. It was really tough. But good side of it was when they clapped, it was honest. So you knew you had earned that for real. Nothing preceding you to make them understand what you sounded like. But it was very difficult because I did that around the world.
Really sure going back deep.
I have a question. So you've mentioned Ms. Bumbry already. I would like to know what kind of relationships you had with your Black predecessors, like Ms. Price, Mr. Shirley, and those folks that came.
Every time they say Mr. Shirley, I go, oh, because he was such a gentleman beside his gorgeous voice. But I was in the Santa Fe opera program, and I just appreciated him being such a gentleman. Because being a young girl, sometimes those guys can get pretty raunchy, the real guys, you know? They always was trying to hit on the young girl. And so Mr. Shirley was always a gentleman, and I just appreciated that so much. And so, I mean, I have a real affection for him and pride for George being one of the first Blacks to do at the Met and things. Let's see, Leontine, she took me under her wing. I was so nervous, you know, I was so nervous. I remember at Columbia, they put you up as a young person to see who can how you can do recitals and who will hire you. And so then I was singing some Porgy and Bess with her ex-husband, Mr. Warfield. And Leontine, she came there, her ex-husband, and she was sitting there and I almost couldn't sing. I was like, oh, what does she think of me? And I'm seeing with her ex-husband and everything. And I was so afraid. And I remember and I was standing there and she was coming out of the place and she was having her limousine get her and things. And I wouldn't say anything. I was just frozen. She said, well, hello, Miss Mitchell. I'm going to speak. This is before I just met her. And I was, Miss Price, I thought I was going to die. And, but anyway, she would invite me to come home and talk. And just a gracious lady. And I remember one time she came back to Columbia sponsor thing, and all the artists were there. Kathy, we all were starting out, Kathy Battle and myself. And so she did her recital, and oh my God, it was just divine, just glorious. She was at her height, and you know, maybe early 50s. Oh my God, and everybody was just swooning. But I was trying to tiptoe around. I remember Grace, all of us were there, but I was trying to not bother her and just kind of tiptoe around and go where to my seat was. And then she said, are you going to speak, Miss? I'm sorry. I just thought you did. I was giving you space. I'm sorry. But yeah, she's 97. I can't believe it. Oh my God. And they tell me that she's still singing in the shower. I said, boy, she is such a icon and such a wonderful person to emulate. And because of her longevity, because, you know, they were telling me, I remember one famous director, he came up to me and said, oh, you're one of those over 35 sopranos. I'm like, well, what should you singing Aida? Right. You know, but he was trying to put me down like, you know, you're just starting out like this, you know. And I thought, okay, but Leontine was my example of longevity. She absolutely could still sing, but she stopped at 57, you know. So because of her, I said, "Oh, you can still sing?" Because, Carlos and those were finished at 35 and like that and Talal. And I was like, "Oh, you can still sing?" Oh, because of Leontine. So that was just a wonderful example to have. And I remember when one of my first opera news articles, I kept saying I wanted longevity. I kept saying that at 24. And so I had longevity. I wanted, remember that lady that I said I figured out I can't stay with that lady, else I'm going to lose my voice. So I learned how to protect myself. I was singing all the time, and I had my rules. Oh, I'm going to laugh because Leontine had her rules. And we just sang because she was an icon in the first, and so she had to produce all the time. What a strong lady. They had bomb threats for her. When she debuted, and she said, "I'm singing anyway." I mean, oh my God. That's amazing to me. So she just was strong, and she said, "I can just do it. I don't care. I can wake up and sing this." And she took care of herself. For instance, I had rules, but my mother called me eccentric. But I said, "Why are you calling me eccentric?" She said, "Because you don't want to talk anymore before you perform." And I said, "Mom, I had to rest my voice." And so they had to get used to me being that Leona and not the one that they were used to gabbing. So, but Leontine had her rules. I mean, she wouldn't speak to people for 2 or 3 weeks. She said, "I didn't care in what emergency, I'm going to protect my sound." So as I was traveling and on airplanes and all of that and being in different countries, and back in those days, everybody smoked. Oh, my God. Oh, I don't hear about this thing dying. So they smoked. So I had to just make my little rules, and, I'd cut myself off, the night before. I didn't talk to anybody after 8 o'clock or something the night before performance, and the day of either. I remember Jimmy Levine would come in my room, and I was just beginning to wake up or come. He would get kind of upset, but I wasn't talkative. I was just wanting to do my job and do it well. I kept my voice. I maybe canceled out thousands of performances 3 times from my voice. And one of them was a disaster because it was at the Met. And I had done all these Aidas forever, and I got laryngitis. So I usually could talk myself through it and make it through the night. And I got over there and I was humming around, and I could not make any sound. And this is why they do at the Met now, you have to be at the it was 2 of us black sopranos did something there. One, oh God bless her heart, my friend Carmen Bought. Oh, my friend, we started out together. We were like, they both died in the last few years. Maria Ewing and Carmen. We were all like living in apartments together and running around in New York. And anyway, Carmen, she was understudying for a role, and so they were in one state, and she was all the way across in another state. It was no way for her to get to that performance when that soprano canceled. So that ruined Carmen's life with the Met, because they wouldn't hire her anymore. That's what happened to Parks. She was real upset. And Maria Ewing did that one night. She was not in the city, and she took a taxi all the way from New York to... It's horrible. But she took a taxi all the way from New York to one other state. It was horrible. Well, she made it. She made it. But anyway, I had to cancel that night, and they were furious with me. They never forgive me for that. I did hundreds of performances for them, years and years, and I never did that. But they had to hold the curtain, and they never had to hold the curtain unless somebody died. And so they were furious. "Well, why didn't you just alert us, and maybe that we could have known?" And I said, "Oh my God, I could sing." So that was really bad. Yeah. I didn't know about that story.
Wow. Can you just pour into us a little bit? Because I know I haven't asked that question in these schools, because there's so many generations of singers. Everyone talks about, oh, where are the black singers? I'm like, everybody that I know is a black opera singer. Oh, everybody I know. Literally, like I was on an interview and someone's like, there's not that many black opera singers, and I'm like, oh, there. I don't know. And so there's so many even in this room, there's so many generations, and it's complicated now because we have all the social media, we have all the things, and everyone really doesn't know each other. And the way that we don't sometimes think we know each other. So people doesn't pour into us as the cookers. We're in a space. We have to cook out right now. So pour into us because I think that there's so separate generation, right? Your generation, my generation, and the other, they can't do this and list and pour into us.
Well, because we didn't have that at all. So we so we were kind of close because we did interact with each other. Like Marilyn Horne, I was around her a lot. We did a lot of galas together, and like Joe Sutherland, like I told you about her, we did dinner parties, and it was close. Luciano was actually offended because we did that tour and I was telling you about in San Francisco with he and Montserrat. He was having a big little party to celebrate. And my manager and coach, my manager was coming from New York. And so I didn't want to just presume that he would invite my manager and all these other people. I couldn't ask him if they could come. And so then we were having our little thing in the other room. He was furious. He was like, who does she think she is? She should be at my party. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry, I didn't know. I was just trying to be nice and not, bring somebody else in. I didn't know. But it got okay. But he was really offended by that. But we used to do, it was sweet. It was sweet. When I did the Yamanani, of course, I was the only female, right, in that. So it reminds me of something about Mary. So all the men are happy. So, but those guys, plus, Luciano and all of those men that were in that, Cheryl Milnes, did a lot of stuff with Cheryl Milnes. And Cheryl Milnes he was so intelligent. I really wanted to kill him sometimes. He didn't hold up the rehearsal, but never he'd go on and Cheryl, can we get on? We get on with this. But anyway, these people, they were 10 and 12 years older than me, and they just took me under their wings. They gave advice, everything. And we always had camaraderies together. We had a lot of parties together after productions, and those guys, I'm going to say, in those days, they brought opening night gifts. Zeffirelli. I still have this cape, fur cape from Zeffirelli, Whoa, what a wonderful man, and his little doggy at the rehearsals. and all of the men, they would bring Dom Perignon as gifts, and like the child, they'd bring you little scars, Hermes scars, and they were just sweet, just wonderful. And so, it's a lot of memories that Grace Bumbry, she just, but she made my day. She's just really something. Just her personality was just way out there. I have to tell you, I don't know, Grace wouldn't want me telling this.
Well, tell it then.
And my husband then, he had been a school teacher. He loved to tell stories. So they would just want Elmer to come and tell them these stories. And Grace's mother and those were school teachers, so they had all these stories. They'd go back and forth. Oh, Elma, tell us this one. So anyway, but Grace was, she, in her heyday, she was so beautiful and thin and stuff. But as she went on, she was eating, And so she had her little, her little guy that would do everything for her. And so he would sneak out and get Kentucky Fried Chicken. Then he would put it in a luxury bag, like Louis Vuitton bag. So I say the hotel wouldn't know. We're getting these things. Like chicken and stuff, Yeah, that was a wild experience. Fix that. And I remember once we were in Verona. I was doing Aida in Verona with braids. And so this other soprano, I still not think her name, she was coming up right under me. And so she was, I don't know what she was being, but anyway, she sent me these huge bouquet of flowers. She was going to be doing Aida later there. And so Grace, her answer back to him, girl, don't you take those flowers. You don't know what she I don't know what she put in those flowers. I said, I Grace was a mess. Oh, he was schooling me. We have that
We have 4 minutes. I think we have back to time for 2 more questions.
Affection.
Oh, hi, sweetheart.
One of them choose opera, and you do have any who inspired you to pursue a career in opera?
Oh, yes. I had a woman in Enid. She had wanted to be an opera singer, and her mother didn't want her to be moving to New York. And she was Welsh, and she became the choir director in our high school and things. And so I was in the choir. And so she heard me singing, and so she went, oh, my God, this girl has a voice. It's late as that in high school, like, maybe 17. And so she heard my voice, and she said, oh, my goodness, you're operatic material. And then I didn't know Leontina, I didn't know anything about opera or anything. But she brought me, she said, oh, there's a black singer that's just made her debut. I was in high school then. And I said, oh, I didn't know anything of this. So she let me listen to. She was an opera singer, but she forgot all about it, but she wasn't doing that. So, but anyway, she let me hear Leontie Price's, one of her first records, and Collins. That's the first opera singers I heard. And I went, you mean people sing like that? And I was so mesmerized. I went, oh my God, that's fabulous. You mean that? Because I was from a Pentecostal church, so I didn't sing. I didn't sing like the hymnals and things, so I didn't even know how to do that. Only thing I could do a high note because I heard, what was his name? James Cleveland. And they go, woo, I know, like that, woo. And so I started doing that in my choir, woo. And so then I found out I had this high voice. I had a high voice. And so she took me, and because I could sing this choir music. And so she took me. Oh, wait, when I would sing in my choir at church I was the little director of the choir and everything. And so I'd come back and I'd be hoarse, And she said, you have to stop singing and all. You have to not do that, Leona, because this is you can't do both things. And so I was singing all in this low voice that you guys heard the other night. And so she said, you can't do that. You just have to keep the voice a little higher. So she would come get me every morning. She taught me the death duet in Aida. And because I was doing pretty well, and I had 3 years of French in my little junior high, 3 years of Spanish. And so the Italian wasn't hard for me to learn. And she physically just brought me to her school every morning and taught me that. And I learned it easily. And so she said, I'm going to take you. Would you do this for me? Would you go to the Oklahoma City University? I hear there's a great teacher there. And would you think about, because I was not even thinking about having a career in opera. I'm like, what are you doing in opera? What do they do? And I really wanted I was very good in history and things like that. I wanted to be and at that time, I don't even know where I got that from. I wanted to be a diplomat. There wasn't many black diplomats. Well, I wanted to be a diplomat, and I had my history and things. I loved all that. So she drove me to OCU and had me audition, and I think I've told this story, I think. So I sang that duet. One of the little boys came and sang with me, and the lady, Inez Silberg, I sang it, and she left the room, and she said, you sure you're 17? I said, yes. She was shy then. I'm not now, but... So anyway, she left the room, and she came back with the whole music school, every teacher there. And she said, you gotta listen to this girl. She I think she has what it takes. And I found out later in my later life that I was the first student that they gave a full scholarship to. I knew I got a scholarship, but I didn't know in singing that's the first one that they had given it to. And so that lady diligently was teaching me, that's 4 years I was there. It put me in the opera before I even knew what an opera was. And so I learned my art songs, and I went through all of that. And it was, and then she emphasized going to competitions to be heard. And thank God, because then that's what got me in that San Francisco. And I had to I was too late to be in the Oklahoma division of it in Texas. So they let it open, and I went in the Denver, Colorado way. And so I won Denver, and then they sent me to San Francisco. And it was just from then on that I got my foot in the door.
I think we're at time, right?
So one more question.
Okay, as someone who doesn't really know a lot about opera, but I do love Black music, and you mentioned the church. And one thing I think about Black music is that singers often can take a hymn that's like 200 years old, but bring something to it each time that's unique and original, and maybe sing in between the beat.
Oh yeah, that's
All that. Is there an opportunity in classical music and opera to bring that timing or sensibility in that structure of classical
I
music?
think not much, not in the old operas, but I think is it Enrica, the African composer who's done she's done some operas she's doing, and I think she tries to work with the Black voice in the church in Kira. Yeah, but I haven't. I did she was commissioned to do a song for me. Yeah, but she understands all how free we are. Oh, she wants things going.
I do. I didn't want to interrupt you. I just wanted them to see.
Oh,
Start. You can continue.
Oh, okay. So, but I'm not sure. We're waiting for somebody to do that, huh? But in the Pork and Best, didn't they were all interpolating all. Well, I was like, whoa, all right. Because we knew that, like, when we did it, it was like the Strawberry Woman would be, free and do that kind of thing. But everybody was doing it all over the place. It was pretty fantastic. Yeah, I said, okay, all right.
I just wanted to ask you, it's one question, Ms. Mitchell. Thank you for sharing with us this weekend. And thank you for everything that you said in your interview this evening. I wanted to ask you about your philosophy on continuing to study, if you continue to study throughout the course of your career, and what your philosophy is on other people continuing to study, take voice lessons while they're still having a career as their voice changes and whatnot, especially for women.
Yeah.
But in your experience and what your philosophy is on finding a good voice teacher and studying.
Oh boy, you asked something. I'm very Kenneth Overton's jaw dropped. I told him that I had no teacher after that teacher.
tweets and all.
I just did it myself with my coach because I didn't want people. He was like, you mean you did all these roles without a teacher? I went, yes. Because I knew my voice and that coach knew my voice and it worked. But I studied, but I practiced every day. Even, even in that interim when I wasn't being used. I sang full voice. The people in my neighborhood were going, oh my God, they would see. But anyway, there was a doctor behind me and he was like, well, I love it. I mean, I was singing at 10 o'clock at night. I'd sing Tosca, the whole thing. And see what? He said, oh no, we're being entertained for free. So I was just at the top of my lungs singing Trovatore. And that kept my voice strong until my 60s. That's the only way, because otherwise you can't. Like we know, Carlos had to, where she took that hiatus with that Onassis, and then she couldn't get her voice back. And so my husband would sit there and say, no, sing through it. I don't know. I said, what for? What am I doing? But I literally kept myself strong until my 60s. Sing everyone that every day. And that's it. Singing those roles, playing for myself, singing Tosca, singing Trovatore, I was singing. Reach another two.
Okay. I think it's it, man. So as we wrap everything up, I'm about our very first conversation. You said once the Met let you go and just things that happened after, you thought, people didn't remember you. So now that you have a full house here and a full house Disco, how does it feel to receive the love?
I don't know if you were there the other night, but it just, my heart was so touched. And it's making me tear now because I told my fiance, I said, they get it, they understand. And I think I just took one of the pictures and I wrote on my Facebook, what a outrageously fabulous welcoming for me. And I just thank God for you. I thank God that He allowed me to have this career, and I am just grateful. And it was just touched to me so. I cannot explain it. Talking to each of you and knowing that you're carrying on the banner and that you are inspired to carry on the banner. It just means everything to me. Everything.
Thank you.
Thank you.